as masters. That's how masters live. Masters can extract more nutrients from a Snickers bar than humans can from the most perfect organic meal. And that's a metaphor of life too. Masters can draw greatness out of anything, any experience. Humans tend to have this unfortunate pattern that positive things happen, but you don't know how long they're going to last. They call that waiting for the other shoe to drop. Yeah, that was positive, but I don't know if that's going to last. And then they have negative experiences, and that becomes a major thing in their life. That's it. That major thing, that negative thing. I would have a better life if only that hadn't happened. The if only mantra, which is not the mantra of God. Can you imagine? If only you people would have worked out a little better, I'd be a happier God, a codependent God, but a happier God. It just doesn't work that way. There is but love. There is but God. And when it doesn't seem like it, it's because our minds have manufactured something else. How? It's through judgment, through other thoughts. And the really sad thing is we're actually addicted to judgments. I mean, we don't realize it, and everybody excuses it. Well, I'm not a judgmental person. And then they use all kinds of ways to prove it. There's people that have all kinds of little stories, I'm not judgmental because look at me. I'm not angry when I'm telling you that you're a jerk. I'm not at all emotional about it. What? I just feel really at peace about it. And they think that proves they're not judgmental. Just because you can repress emotions doesn't mean you're holy. So there's all kinds of false versions of loving, and I'm such a loving and forgiving person. They think if I'm not loud, then it proves that I'm not being judgmental. Jesus demonstrated you can be really loud just to shake people up and yet have no judgment. And, there are lots of examples of people speaking very softly, and yet having judgmental kind of vibe, So we have to learn to understand. There's this duality, for lack of a better word, between these ideas of judgment and forgiveness. But the world that we see, for the most part, like yogis have always said, your senses lie to you. Meaning the world you think you can see, touch, smell, taste, and so on. The world you think you see is not the real world. But there is a real world. That's the good news. But it takes humility to say, okay, you know what? It's like a 12-step program to be able to say something's wrong. And New Agers, spiritual people, they forgot how to do that. There's all kinds of false spirituality out there. And we have to just consider, let's go another level and let's wake up. And so what has to happen is we have to be humble enough to say, even when we have a nice day and rainbows in the sky and pretty red rocks in Sedona and so on, doesn't mean you found the real world yet. If you don't feel the real world inside, you're not even seeing the real world, even glimpses of it. Those are just decent days. That's all they are. The ego knows that if it makes you miserable every day, you're eventually going to question it. So it has to throw in a rainbow once in a while. Because people are so used to, if they just get a little something. Look at some people's relationships. Just a morsel of what seems like love or God, the number of people I have known and or worked with, the concept of a little attention is enough to take people off their center. A little attention keeps them married when they're unhappily married. A little attention makes them have affairs. Some people. A little attention, that's all. Children will be miserable and being programmed with negativity that they'll be in therapy for the rest of their lives when they get old enough to go to therapy because of the negative attention they got or the lack of positive attention. There's such a void in human beings that it's like we'll do anything, just get it filled. People we think will fill it and they do not. So what do? You're going to need to drink to numb it so it's not so intense. Or you'll take something to stimulate yourself so you feel a little better. I don't feel as bummed out as I was a minute ago. All these addictions are about dealing with those deeper feelings. And the deeper feelings are not there because It's the way life's supposed to be. We manufactured a world that is not in congruence with, in alignment with God's world. So God says, let there be light. And we said, well, maybe not. Let there be light. Well, we like some gray and some dark too. Let there be light. What do you think light is? Love, peace, joy, abundance. And we're like, no. We would like to have bills to pay that we can't really pay. We would like partnerships. And if they go really, really well, and they're absolutely, which would be rare, beautiful partnerships, they're going to die. And then we're going to be left alone. And God's going, none of this has anything to do with me. The real love, when you get back to the real love, never dies. People never die. You would see them and feel them forever because you'd be living in a heaven-like existence again. We manufactured something different. And that's what we mean by judgment. Not just, you annoy me. Those are judgments, but believe it or not, those are what humans call a judgment. Judgments. But those are not. Those are symptoms of judgment. If you made a list, if we all brainstormed and give me some ideas on what you judge and what you hear other people judge, war, foods and so on, the AMA and the BAD and whatever else out there, we would all name things, but they're all symptoms. The number one and only primary judgment is that we believe we're separate from God, and then all the other judgments come from that. See, you annoy me, but not because you annoy me. You annoy me because I feel separate from God. It creates angst inside, and now I can't tolerate you. You see, but it's already been set up. When you find people annoying, which is relatively easy to do, when you find people annoying, it's not actually what they're doing that's causing you to be annoyed. We aren't in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. We're not remembering and feeling the presence of God consistently. And think about this. Have you ever, let's say, been away from home so long you started missing it? Right? Has anybody ever felt that? Have you ever been missing a loved one? You can't wait to see the kids again. Anybody? Right? Okay, take that. Now, that's just a kid, a child, a person, a thing. Multiply that by, I'm missing God. How much more intense is that? Our brains can't even actually fathom that. I'm missing heaven, but you don't remember heaven because the ego helps create amnesia. So since you don't remember heaven, you don't know how much you miss it. But take anything you've ever missed and multiply it by 1 trillion, and it would even start to explain it to us. It's beyond comprehension. Guys, we miss love, not romance. We miss God. We miss having blissed out consciousness. So you'll drug it, drink it, try anything to establish even a morsel. It's really sad if you think about it. Humans tend to settle. That's why in A Course in Miracles and that's why Buddha was a hard hitter. That's why great teachers aren't the ones that kiss your butt, and just try to make you feel better. Buddha was far from a motivational speaker. His first mantra, life is suffering. Okay, great. Thank you for being here. Could you picture that dude today in a conference, a New Age conference? Nobody would sit and listen to him. Oh, this guy's like totally bummed. He hasn't healed his issues yet. And they'd go and listen to somebody who strokes their ego. And Buddha would be happily sitting there alone. He'd be fine with that. Because he'd say, number one, your life is suffered. Life cannot give you anything. Only awakening. Because the world you think you see is a dream, therefore it can't give you anything because it's just a dream. It's just shadows. Everything's just fake. So why would you think you get anything? The only reason, and then we're mixing Buddha and Course in Miracles, the only reason people think they can get anything from the world is because they're insane. The world can't give you anything, but since you don't know the real world anymore, you'll settle. And that's why he's saying, life is suffering. You're going to be upset, Buddha's saying. I'm telling you, I'm predicting you are always going to end up with a terrible situation. Wow, Buddha, why? Because first you're going to have the realization that this world offers you nothing. And that's kind of makes a person miserable. But there's only one other type of person. Not the people that realize the world offers you nothing, but those who think it does. And as soon as they find that it really doesn't, they're going to also end up miserable. That's what he meant by life is suffering. He's saying there's no winning when you rely on this world. And then Jesus in the Course is then saying, I'm not going to tell you in this material, there's a world of love and peace. Go find it. He said, no, I'm going to tell you, you feel terrible, don't you? He doesn't tell you the good news. He says, you know what? That doesn't really work as well as people would hope. He said, instead, I have a really radical approach. I'm going to ask you to tune into your soul and be honest. You are not feeling bliss, are you? You are not feeling joy on a day-to-day level, are you? And basis, are you? Well, not really. Great. All I want you to do is own that life is not, the one you see is not really bringing you happiness. Okay, fine, Jesus. Fine. Buddha. Yeah, you're right. It's not really working out. And then Jesus is again in the Course is saying, so then say this. And if it's not, I'm kind of tired of this. I would like something different. I would like happiness. But he's saying you have to first recognize you miss it. Then you're going to want it. If I only tell you to want it, you're only going to get surface levels of it. If I only tell you, just keep saying, I forgive you. I forgive you. It's surface level. First, look at how hurt you feel inside before you forgive. First, own the deeper feelings so that the forgiveness can go to a deeper level. It's kind of like any kind of house cleaning. You can dust, and that's like surface level forgiveness. It looks better. It's kind of nice. Things are shinier. But are they really clean to a deeper level? Inside, company's coming over. I dusted. Whew. I hope they don't open any closets, though. Because everything comes pouring out, They go, oh, look at this. Oh, no, don't touch it. That's how we live in life. Don't look any deeper into me because I'm just only trying to show you the polished bits. Don't I look nice? I dressed up for you to come and visit. And Spirit's trying to tell us, go deeper, go deeper. There's something more waiting for us. So we have to come to understand, there's surface levels of forgiveness and it's not the real thing. We have to understand we live with judgment, and the judgments are we think we're separate from God and therefore we're flawed, because only a flawed being would ever want to leave bliss, joy. Why would you leave abundance for bill paying? Who in their right mind, Jesus says in the Course, who in their right mind would do such a thing? Then he says, but I've never referred to you as having your right mind. So it's like he's saying, you, the human you're not in your right mind. Who in their right mind would choose eternity for death and reincarnation? And we go, isn't reincarnation amazing? It's as though it's perpetual life. No, it's called dragging things on. We dress it up. Oh, reincarnation. It just shows eternal life. It does not. It's the ego's attempt to replicate eternity. But if you think about it, it just drags everything on. Oh, you again. That's all reincarnation is. Oh, you're asking me to go back and marry my mother this time because I didn't get it all right last time. So is that really what we're here for, And no. Reincarnation happens. It's a true thing, but it's not our goal. And it's not our goal to say, well, 1,000 more lifetimes and I'll get it right. That even sounds like, okay, that's wonderful because it's called evolution. See, we keep making up stories of things to make them sound good. Hey, do you believe in reincarnation? Yes, it's an evolution of the soul. God, and then I grow every lifetime, and one day I'm going to have complete awakening and I'll be enlightened. I swear to you, one split second after you become enlightened, after another 1,000 lifetimes of fasting and cleansing and 12-step programming and meditating and doing all the other stuff and pranayama and all that we do to become spiritual and the cleansing of the self and the clearing of the mind and the awakening, one split second later you're going to go, I had it all the time. One split second of after all the work is done, there's just going to be, I just had the weirdest dream. I dreamt that I lost it all and then had to work to gain it all. Because the short version of the story, the only shortcut is to accept that we really are already there. We are as God created us. Now, that's not to say that don't do any of the other, because now that we're here and we believe we forgot, we do have to actually do these things to remember. You can't pretend, since we're already there, I'm just not going to do anything and I'll just wait for me to catch up to myself. That's not going to actually work. So I'm saying in reality, guys, we're already there. So follow me, please. In reality, we never really forgot our divinity in reality, but in the illusion we did. Meaning temporarily we did. But it's a sure thing. It's not like we have to hope one day it'll come together. It's a sure thing. God did not create us to be lost. So as soon as we thought we were lost, God already planted a solution in us. It's called forgiveness. Okay, so I have to forgive the person that I don't like. No. You have to forgive everybody. But you also have to forgive yourself for ever believing that you or anyone else was anything but divine. So do your fasting, do your cleansing, do all your things of the human stuff, but don't forget to also work your mind. The mind that says, okay, if we never separated from God, here's what I have in mind. I'm going to now make it an affirmation in my heart and soul to see you as you really are. See, forgiveness is not, all right, fine. That person's a jerk, but I forgive them for being a jerk. It's not. It's the person's a jerk. I forgive them for being a jerk. Oh, no, wait a second. I forgive them for that, but now I need to forgive myself for thinking that they were a jerk. And I need to forgive myself for even believing that I could believe such a thing. So I'm forgiving them at first, but it isn't about them. True forgiveness ends up about us forgiving ourselves, believe it or not. Because even when people act up, and Jesus does tell you in the Course, some people wouldn't understand this or believe it, but even when people act up, he says, guys, when people act hurtful, Jesus is saying, I'm telling you, they are coming from their ego, no doubt about it. They're not coming from the soul. They're not being loving. They're not doing nice things. He's not denying that. He's not telling you to deny it. It's true. And then he's saying, but they will never stop coming from their ego until the day someone is willing to say goodbye to their ego and hello to their soul. Are you willing to try that in your life? Anybody? Great. We'll do that as soon as they start behaving more nicely. That's again the human little hook. No, that's the drag about the whole thing, is that we have to actually practice this while they're still not being nice. Okay? That's spiritual warrior. Tenacity, man, and inner strength, conviction. Just like if you're doing a 12-step program, you don't just go, oh, that'll be a nice spa. I'm going to go to a spa called this 12-step group. No, man, this is some heavy stuff. When you start doing your step work and you start doing inventory, you're not at a spa. You'll probably get worse before you get better because it's not fun. Because if you have good sponsors, they're going to tell you, well, thank you for sharing about all those mean and bad people in your life, but let's talk about you. Well, why? We don't need to talk about me. I'm really clear about myself. I know exactly who I don't like and why. And they're going to say, no, let's get back to you again. And it is annoying. That's why the real, true, deeply spiritual groups or path to God is not the most popular necessarily. They're not the ego-stroking ones. They're real. That's why we have that saying. Religion is for those who fear hell. Spirituality is for those who have been there. One of them is more real and integrated. That's what it is. Religion's, I don't want to go to hell. I'm going to behave. Look at me. I'm going to behave nicely. You're already in hell because you're already repressing and judging and this and that. Spirituality is for those who have been there. It's for people who I'm willing to look and recognize what I deal with. Man, here's my shortcomings. Here's my weaknesses. You know, I want to be really awake and loving, but I trip sometimes. I do. I slip and I do a little of this and I fear that. Seeing it. And the more you can see it and be really transparent and vulnerable about it, believe it or not, the less it has power anymore. It's like, well, what? I don't have any secrets, so what could have power? Well, I heard this about you or that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was a tough time in my life. You see, just nice and clear, nice and clean. So what we do is, because we have these feelings that we separated from love, we judge ourselves for it. And then what happens is this. You guys know that thoughts create, right? As soon as I have a thought that I'm separate from God and that I must not be a very great person for having done that, guess what's going to happen? My thoughts boomerang out and come back to me in the form of what we call people, humans, and relationships, and so on. My thoughts, God, I left God. Not that we have that consciously, but inside the soul, what are we doing here? The soul's looking at the human self going, hey, what are you up to? Oh, I'm just on my 13th marriage, but this one is going to be real. It's going to be wonderful. The soul's going, you're kidding me. It's not, the soul's going to say to the human self, but it's not the marriages apparently, because you've tried that several times, right? Over a dozen. I have an idea, the soul's going to say. Let's get all of your issues that are causing your life to be messed up to get incarnated in your partner, so that they can bring it all up so you can clear it through forgiveness. And instead, they do bring it all up. We get annoyed. We fire them and get someone else. And we do it again. And again, we do that in everyday life. But if you miss it, if you've got some pieces left over, which you will when you die, you get to come back and have reincarnation, bring it all up again. But Spirit is saying, I'm always banking on the day where you will start to get it. Where you will start to say, this again? Scratch the head light bulb. Maybe it's me. I'm not saying what they do is nice, because we said, again, if they're not being nice, they're coming from their ego, that's fine. But what we have to ask is, why are they in your life? What do I need? What can I learn from this? Back to the responsible bits, you see? So we do this kind of a boomeranging, and it comes back in the form of people. All people, acquaintances, strangers, partners, children, and so on. It's all coming back, but it's coming back for a reason. So A Course in Miracles says, the reason you have tests in life are only one reason. Because they're things you missed last time. Lessons you missed that have come, and he tries to say it all nicely, that have come back for healing. We don't go, oh my God. You don't call your friends, guess what? A bunch of stuff's going really crazy in my life so I can really clear this. That's not how we approach it. But that's kind of what he's saying. It's coming back because it didn't get cleared and healed last time. So, woohoo! It's back so you can clear it. And even though that's not easy to celebrate, it's not easy to say, wow, this is going to be fun. It is possible for us to see things a little more clearly and responsibly. You can kind of make it an exercise for yourself. You're still going to be tempted to be upset, but try to see things as, wait, this is just a test. And if it's a test, how do I want to do? It's very simple. Do I want to pass or fail? Obviously, I want to pass. Okay, then what do I need to do to pass the test? Now, if you say, I want to pass so I never have to see that person again. Oh, you already failed. I want to pass because of who I really am. Try that. I want to pass because it's what my soul really wants. I want to pass because it's all that's true. It's God passing the test. Have the right reasons, not the defensive ones. Have the right reasons, and then it'll motivate you more. It's a test and I want to pass because that's the real world. And also then you can celebrate when you pass the test. Yes, it can mean that may not need to be revisited. But if you bank on it and say, I'm only doing this so it doesn't come back, it's already going to come back. When you think you're over issues, even when you're practicing forgiveness like you should be, and you think, okay, maybe now I'm over this, the need to be over it's already going to attract it again. What we have to do is not care one way or the other. That's how you stay neutral. That's how you stay unattracting to these things. When you say, hey, you know what? I feel pretty good. If it comes up, I'm already feeling pretty good. And if it doesn't, I don't care because I'm already feeling good. That's the right attitude. Make sense? Yeah. That need for it to be over, man, that's going to just call it back. So we do suffer from like a spiritual amnesia. And we can't cure it by defending. You know, we think we've practiced forgiveness. We go, okay, I think I'm done. I think I've made it past, you know, and you know, I think I've forgiven things. But if you keep bringing up the same issue, you may not be past it. I mean, just be honest with yourself. If you keep bringing it up, if you forgive out of obligation or out of fear, I got to forgive or else, none of that's going to be real. So when you think you've worked on something, even out of pity, oh, you know, they're hurting now, so I guess I forgive them. Or if you forgive like this, well, you know, I guess my father, mother, whomever it was, you know, I guess, you know, they were drinking a lot, so it really wasn't their fault. Now you're making excuses. That's not forgiveness. All kinds of reasons, all kinds of methods the ego has. It doesn't want you to practice any form of forgiveness, but if you're going to, it wants you to have a misdirected, false form of forgiveness so that you can't really feel that depth of change inside. So when you think about having forgiven someone, ask yourselves like the criteria. Was it pity, obligation? Was I making excuses for them? And that happens a lot, especially amongst spiritual people. You know, as soon as a person's been in counseling for 2 weeks, they think they've forgiven everybody. You know, because, you know, first there's the tough couple of weeks or whatever. Oh, all this stuff's coming up. Then they're going, I'm past it now. Just be open. I'm just here and I feel clear. And if something comes up, it kind of sort of moves through us. If it brings up a tear, cry the tear. Cry the tear and then bring it to the altar and look at the deeper parts and say, wow, what's that about? And release that too. Don't, oh my God, a tear. Oh my God, I thought I had healed this. Oh my God, I must have failed. Now you start picking on yourself, and that's very, very dangerous. Because the ego, again, wants you to punish yourself and judge yourself for not having forgiven well. Just keep moving as though I'm open. It's all open and I'm okay no matter what. That's like a really healthy neutrality. So true forgiveness means greatly that I'm willing to look at myself here. If you have no conversation about your own part in things, you pretty much can count on that you're not really reaching true levels of forgiveness. So, and compassion. If you ask the average kind of spiritual person, what's the greatest level of forgiveness? One of their answers, maybe their only answer is, oh, it's compassion. Because that's so Buddhist-like. It's not the highest. Compassion for most people, not all. For most people, compassion, I'm going to just kind of embellish it a little bit to make my point, but for most people, compassion is, I used to judge people like that, but now I just feel sorry for them. See, I'm glad you caught on so quickly. Some don't. When I say, but now I have compassion for jerks, that's kind of what you're saying. I'm now so loving, I don't judge them anymore. I just breathe into my heart and feel compassion for them. But you're still establishing and saying that there's still something wrong with them. The highest form of forgiveness is to forgive as God forgives. And the forgiveness of God would mean that I don't see anything in the first place. That I can only see God in you. Okay, now that gets tricky. Because now if I end the talk right there, everybody leaves going, that ain't happening. I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. Oh yeah, everybody can just be abusive. Oh, I just see the God in you because that's true forgiveness. No. This is a process. You can't just jump to it and go, there, I'm now higher than compassion. I now just see good in everybody. You know, you see somebody mugging going, that's okay. It's just love. That's another thing that goes on in the New Age community. A lot of people are playing this. It's actually because they're not deep like they pretend to be. And they use this phrase, and forgive me if this applies to you folks, but they do this, it's all love, right? It's all love. And they'll say things like, when I see things, and I've seen speakers talk about things like this. Somebody will say, well, how do I deal with this thing that happened? Just don't judge it. Well, this person kicked me in the leg. Well, don't judge that they kicked you in the leg. Oh, okay, I'm better now. Thanks for that advice. You can't. What it is you're suppressing the feeling and pretending that you're okay. It's great in its wording. Its concept sounds really like that sounds rational. Just don't judge it. But there's something more, guys. There's something deeper, just like deeper than compassion. There's seeing, really as God sees. And you're never closer to being like God. While you're on earth, you're never closer to being like God than when you forgive like God. Which is to say, the human me sees this happening. Okay? The human me perceives this. But that's not God. So you can't just say it's all love, and you can't just say, I'm not going to judge it. That's a lie. You're already judging it. So here's what I mean. If someone comes up and kicks me in the leg, and I can say, well, I'm just not going to judge the experience. They tell you, and now you're clear. That's not true. You can't be clear because what really happened is I felt separate from God. My thoughts boomeranged out and manifested as you kicking me in the leg. I need to actually look at the idea that I misperceived who I am. See, the other is just going, just don't judge it. That's fake. God bless the teachers and the students that practice that. At least they're doing something. I'm just saying, as I often do, there's another way. There's a deeper way to do this. If you don't show up for the forgiveness process, it's not deep. It's not real. So if you just go, I'm just not going to judge it. It's great. It's almost like an NLP kind of technique. Kind of a neuro-linguistic program. It's like I'm going to just neutralize that. I'm going to tap it. You kick me in the leg. Despite being kicked in the leg, I feel fine. Tapping, EFT, the techniques, they help. They are good. Don't get me wrong. They're good. But tap yourself forever, and you still do not reach God. Despite not reaching God consciousness, I'm going to tap so that you don't reach God through the tapping. You just ease the garbage of this world a bit, and it's good to do that. But it doesn't replace this. Show up. Wait a minute. You kicked me in the leg. Wow. What's that? I wonder what was in my thinking that would have made you think that was okay somehow. And I need to forgive you for kicking me. That doesn't mean if you go to kick me again, I'm going to go, another lesson in forgiveness. I could restrain you from kicking and say, I got it. Thank you. Thank you. I don't need to stay married to you. I don't need to stand in front of you while you kick me again. As soon as I see something's going on, my job is to work it and heal it. Not to go, how many more times can you do this? So what I do is I show up and I say, I'm here. I may not like that you did that. I may not like having to look at this. First, I need to forgive you. Your behavior is ego, clearly. And it is my destiny, it's my responsibility to forgive you. And it's relatively easy when you get used to how to do this. But you're basically saying, you know what? Whatever seems to have happened, goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye to the ego, goodbye to the hurtfulness. Fine. But I still have to ask myself why I'm there. And I don't have to know all the details, but at least say to yourself this. Whatever I thought that would have made you drawn into my life, I accept that I must have thought it somewhere. I forgive myself for it. And not only do I empty my cup by forgiving myself for it, I now ask to know who I really am and what I really deserve. So I've taken it full circle. What I really deserve is what? Love. God, peace. Now you go to kick me again, you go, no, actually, no. So you don't go, okay, well, I'm going to just show spiritual tenacity, man. Go ahead, kick me. Yes, and you can just take it, like, yeah. Like the medicine bags they call it, or the heavy bags and stuff you work in boxing, or they take the big bag and they pound that onto stomach muscles to tighten the stomach. Yeah, and they stand there, go ahead, do it again. Boom. That's not what you're supposed to do spiritually. You're allowed to go, no, you did that a moment ago and I already got it. So now I'm clear. And the phrase I use for that is, not today. You see? Not today. Jesus did it. You're allowed to do it. They come to arrest him. He goes, no, not today. You're allowed to say to people, no, I already got that lesson. Oh, but I'm going to kick you. And then here's what you're saying to them. It's not that you should verbally say this, but here's what you're really saying. Guess what? I know that on some other dimension in my mind, I thought I was unlovable and flawed, and that might have sent out a message that made you think, hey, look, a victim. And then you did this to me, but guess what? The weirdest thing happened. I figured it out. And now you don't need to do that. What you're doing is you're running on an old compulsion. See, there's an old program that says you can talk to me that way. Funniest thing. I imagine somewhere I signed that contract, but I've since burned it. You just have an old copy. Look at it. Because when I changed my mind, it spiritually, energetically stamped your contract. Flip to the last page. You'll find null and void. The case was dismissed. I pled insanity and it's been dismissed. So I don't need you in my life anymore. That's what you do. Without judging them, without hating them, without believing they have power over us, we dismiss them. Is that making sense? Yes. Forgiveness is just not, what people think. It's not this kind of surface level or shallow kind of process or quick fix. It's actually like you're going into a crash course of a 12-step program. You're going into a deep personal process. But it has to involve us looking at our part. There's a phrase in the Course in Miracles, and so I'm going to start closing in a moment. The salvation of the world rests on us. The world we think we see was created by our consciousness. Okay? God did not say, like we think, as we were brought up, God created it all. God is not capable of saying, oh, look at the pretty butterfly. That one we're easy. It's easy to do. I bet God created butterflies. We think that's okay. But God did not create the web that it lands in and a spider to come and suck its life out of it. If we just pause for a minute, it wouldn't take much for us to say, something's wrong with this picture. The reason the Bible says one day the lion will lie with the lamb, it'll mean this stuff that we call nature will not look the way it does. Nobody has to lose for somebody to win. You don't have to actually take the life out of something to live another day. That's human thinking. Oh, you have to. You don't even have a body that needs fed. But while you believe you do, fine, play the game. But there will come a day when we don't believe that anymore. There will come a day when we retire all these thoughts that if in an argument, if you win, then I lose. That's duality. And that's how everybody thinks. It's called survival of the fittest. Not just in nature, but even in conversations. We're arguing about something and I probably could say sorry, but I won't because that makes me feel weak. You're not weak unless you believe that. Strength comes from saying sorry. And there's teachers, popular spiritual teachers, that are telling you the opposite. Don't apologize. That's a negative statement. Oh, thank you for that. It's not. It's a negative statement to a negative person. It's a powerful statement in real life. If you've done something to be able to, oops, sorry about that. It's kind of nice. It helps retire mistakes, but it shows responsibility. But especially if you feel strong from it. And I've seen people that have horrible phobias about that one word, sorry. Like I'm viscerally, they can't do it. Well, why do I have to say it? How come you don't say it? I've counted them 3 times this month. You said it, but you owed it to me 6 times. They in their head, they've got all these stories and excuses. But if I say I'm sorry, that means I'm wrong, and I don't believe I was wrong. It goes on and on. Our strength, forgiveness, is our greatest ally. Forgiving does not mean, oh, fine. Once again, I'm the one who has to forgive the mean people. I guess they're never going to have to just be nice to me. Now you're being a victim. And believe it or not, how all these things happened. Why have I been a victim? You know why? Because something inside, you were already judging yourself as less than a beautiful, perfect, divine being. We believe that. All of us believe it to some level. We believe we're flawed. And you know what it does? Again, it sends out a message. And somebody out there goes, wow, I'm looking for a victim. Oh, look, there's one. Because in their forgetting who they are, they often polarize to either a victimizer or a victim. The victimizers are in just as much pain as the victims, guys. And if forgiveness doesn't come in, we stay split, the victim and the victimizer. But they're both the same being, two sides of the same coin. We're playing different roles. Hey, listen, I feel kind of spiritually insecure. How about you? Yeah, me too. We're on the other side, right? I'm going to get incarnated. Yeah, me too. Okay, do you mind kind of kicking me around and abusing me a little? Because I just feel really low. I would love to. Because I feel low too, and I feel a little better when I kick people around. And we assign it. And then everybody comes and plays their role. And what we do then, the ego goes, amnesia. And then we're like, oh, I can't believe you did that to me. And the world is waiting for someone to say, I do believe it. Wow. And you did a really good job, by the way. Yeah, I mean, Academy Award, for that role. Major jerk, Wow. And I'm going to own that on some level, I hired you. I don't want to think that. I don't like to think that because I don't like to say sorry. I don't like to take responsibility. All those things make me feel weak, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to say, on some level, I guess I might have played a part. But now that I own that, I can say, you're fired. I cannot fire you if I'm not the owner of the business. I cannot fire you from my life if I don't own that I own my life, that I'm the leader. So victims keep remaining victims and victimizers keep remaining victimizers. Someone has to step in and be courageous enough to say, hey, victimizers, I got it, and I won't be needing you anymore. Isn't that beautiful? It works. It's for real. So there's plenty of people who think they don't need to say those words. There's plenty of people who don't actually think they have to practice forgiveness. But listen, you're never going to take heaven by storm. You're not ascending to heaven just because you believe in ascension. You're not going to heaven just because your religion says it's the religion that gets to go to heaven. None of human versions of heaven are going to be attained. Oh, what a bummer. I just dropped a real bomb there. Like, well, how depressing is that? No one is getting to heaven by any means by storm or by trying to take it, by making it happen. Only, it'll sound like I'm being narrow-minded, only through forgiveness. Because it's only through judgment we lost heaven. And forgiveness is the only cure to judgment. So I need to start practicing forgiveness. And if all the forgiveness I know is to start with, fine, you're a jerk, I forgive you, that's at least a start. But what's amazing is you're going to start evolving it. And pretty soon you're going to get to a point where you stop saying they're bad and you're forgiving. It's going to evolve to, it's easier and easier to let people off the hook for the roles. I'm not saying they didn't do it. They're okay, fine. Yeah, it is what it is, that those things. I remember that happened and this happened. But I start retiring it from having power over me. And I also start recognizing my divinity because I'm going to start forgiving myself for even being involved in that. At some point, I start, be careful with this one, guys, I'm going to even be grateful for the people that acted so rudely, because when they did, they gave to me a vision of where I was missing things. They showed me my low self-worth. I know that what we want in life is to not have those kinds of mean people in our lives, and I too would love that. But I'm also aware that when they do those things, they're only tests I missed yesterday, and let me work them a bit better today. There's no other way. You can't say, dear baby Jesus, make all the mean people go away, because then you will disappear. You'll be the first out of there. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You can have the Noah flood and erase the world of the sinful people. And guess what happened? We all came back. We all just incarnated again. As soon as there were enough people having babies, we started shooting in, and whatever issues we had before, we still had them. We didn't go, after that flood, I'm going to go back to earth and I'm going to be a saint. It didn't happen. Angry people were still angry. Hurt people were still hurt. People still took stuff out on each other. It's an inside job, man. We have to make major changes. And it's an inside job. And Spirit is just, again, saying, I know you can do it. Understand, God knows we're going to do this. It just says, I would recommend you kind of speed it up a little, because the longer you believe in judgment and hate and hurt, you're going to drag out this whole illusion of pain in your lives. But, God says, I'll wait as long as it takes. That infinite patience. So if God says, I already know you're going to make it, then what should you be doing if you want to be like God? Say to the people you don't like, I know you're going to make it. That's called faith. Faith is not what people think. I'm just having faith that God will give me the lottery. No, true faith means, and everything that doesn't look like love, peace, joy, and abundance is not real. I have faith in that. I have faith that it has no power in me, and I have faith that you too will get that in a moment. Today, tomorrow, next year, I don't care. But it's going to happen. That's what faith is. Faith is not that your child's going to get first place in a race. Faith is that everyone in the race is made in the image of God. Whether they fall, whether they get hurt, whether they win, sprain an ankle. Isn't that amazing that we do all these things? But I'm affirming that only God is. It's not easy to live the Christ life. It's not easy to maintain this perfect state of consciousness, but it is our destiny. So let's remember this. The last way I'm saying this, everything in this world is wrapped in a veil. The word a veil means evil. So what we think is evil, good and evil, there's a battle of good and evil, is there's good, here's good, and there's a veil wrapped around the good. Okay, so it's good and a veil, not good and evil, okay? So it's good and a veil. Why is there a veil? They're called judgments. The veil came when we thought we separated from God and that made us less than divine. By thinking it made us less than divine, it affirms that it actually happened. So as soon as we let go of the judgment that we're less than divine, we're starting to let go of the belief that we did it. You see? Philosophically, it's deep, it's powerful, but on a practical level, it's a day at a time. The ultimate 12-step program is not from alcohol or drugs, it's from judgment. And it goes through the same steps. I need God's help. I need to look at my stuff, and I need to bring my successes to the world. Okay? So the world is wrapped in a veil. And when you marry a bride and you lift the veil, do you know what that was symbolic of? I am determined, my beloved, to see you beyond what the veil shows me. Amazing, huh? It was always supposed to be that. Now, what if you're a gay couple? What if you didn't have a veil kind of traditional thing? It's metaphor, man. Everyone is wearing a veil. I love all of you. I don't want to marry any of you, but I love all of you. And I would like, if you don't mind, I would like to lift your veil. You see? Love, not the romance partner, let me lift a veil and then in a few years we'll hate each other. It's I am determined to see you beyond the veil, my beloved, and you lift the veil. Kiss the bride. It's like join with what you've just accomplished. I see the Christ in you. So if that's true, it means we all need to marry everyone spiritually. We need to lift the veil. I am determined. There's 150 people in this room and there's 100,000 or whatever it is watching online. No matter where you are, even if I never meet you, I am still determined, if you would let me, please, to lift the veil and see the real you, the Christ in you. And that's why Revelation says, I am going to see a marriage between a bridegroom and a bride. Has many meanings, and one of them is, I am going to eventually marry all of you spiritually. I'm going to lift the veil and consummate our oneness. That was nice. On that note, don't shuffle around a lot. Just go in. Let's close our eyes and let that take us inside. Just breathing. Just dropping the stuff of the world. We're not ever wrong or bad for seeing a world, perceiving a world, even for creating a world. It was just kind of a bad dream. But we have to own it. When we saw victims and victimizers, when we saw people physically, harmed, when we thought people died, it's all part of a dream. I know it feels real, and I know it's sad and hurtful sometimes. But it is not God's world, because in God there's no hurt that can happen. The people that say, just don't judge the hurt and then you're one with God. No. In God the hurts can't even happen. And there is no death in God. You don't just not judge it. There is no such thing. So some breathing just to own, wow, there's this world, and it isn't the one God created. And I am not happy with this false world. It's painful. It's sad. It's limiting, and it's not God's world. So I am determined to find the other world because I know it's there. And the other world is the love, peace, joy, oneness, abundance, bliss, eternity. And there's only one way to see it. And let's just do a little process that is a metaphor of how we do this. Take a minute, just a minute, to imagine you're still, you're quiet, you're centered. We will not determine who they are, but there are going to be about 10 people standing back away from you, and one at a time they're going to approach with a veil over their face. Doesn't have to be a white wedding dress, because some are going to be male, some female. Randomly, imagine the first person walks up. You don't know who they are. You don't know if they're male or female. But they symbolize and trust in this. The Holy Spirit, I am giving you permission. Divine Mother, Holy Spirit of God, bring me the people I need to see. The first one approaches you, and just hear these words. No matter what role you've ever played, up or down, victim or victimizer, good or bad, love or hate, I am determined to see you as you really are. And lift the veil and see who's there. Whoever it is, it's okay to have a tear. It's also okay to laugh at yourself a little, like, oh, I forgot about you. But they're there. Oh, so you were one of the people I put a veil over and saw something else. I saw a mean person, a nice person, or whatever they were. But it was a veil. I am determined to see you as you really are. And just look at them. Without any effort, let them just turn to light. Don't think about it. Don't judge it. Just let them turn to light. And let them move aside and let another one come up and do the same thing. Over and over for about a minute now. Try to get just a slight amount of an idea of how much relief there is when each person is let off the hook. It doesn't matter what role they play, good or bad. When a person is released from form, from density, from programs and limits, Guys, they just feel such release. Try to feel that when you let each one dissipate. The roles, the silly roles, that's all they are. No matter what role, we're all in this together. One or two more. And one last one that we're purposefully going to choose. They walk up. I know that on some level I have put you in roles, played roles, put impressions on you, programs on you, whoever you are. I know I have some great thoughts about you, not great thoughts. I see your past. Somehow I know about all your past, but I am determined to see you as you really are. Lift the veil and see yourself. I'm so sorry about all that. Making you an image of a success or a failure. You've been naughty or people treated you hurtfully. God, if I don't let you off the hook, you're going to keep living. Even in next lifetime, you're going to carry all this with you. That's ridiculous. I would never wish that upon anyone I love. And I love you. So I'm determined to see you, me, as I really am. And see yourself turn to light. And feel what a relief.